Starting now. And I will hand that over to Joseph.
All right. Yeah, before we get started today, we are having the chair of the Oregon Disability Commission, Jim Davis, be your host. And so he's going to welcome and greet everyone and give you a little introduction to what today is going to be about. But before we got started, I definitely wanted to introduce the director of the Oregon Department of Human Services, Fariborz Paksaresh, and I know he wanted to take a few minutes to say something to the crowd as well. So Fariborz, go for it.
Thank you so much, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be with you all and really excited to hear our esteemed guest today, Ms. Human. And I just wanted to acknowledge as the director of this agency that there is still so much work that we have to do to accommodate the needs of our people, our employees with disabilities, and those people that we also serve, Oregonians. And I just wanted to let you know that as we look at our Equity North Star, when I read this sentence that we are dedicated to make services, supports, and well-being accessible to all means all. All means that if there is one individual that is not accommodated, if they feel that they do not have access, our work is not done. So although there's a lot of work that has happened, good work that has happened throughout this process, I think there's even more work that's left to do. So I just wanted to express my commitment to you all that we are, the ODHS cabinet is serious and dedicated to making sure that we do comply and exceed the expectations that is set out in our Equity North Star. And I also wanted to thank the Oregon Disabilities Commission and the Northwest ADA Center for having these weekly sessions, because I think part of this work is about education. Some of it is about policy, and more than anything else is about action. Thank you so much for allowing me to share those few thoughts. And back to Joseph.
All right. Well, thank you, Fariborz. And now I will give it over to Jim Davis, the chair of Oregon Disabilities Commission, and let him do the introduction and give us the kickoff for this year's event.
That's great. Just, I can't see myself. Oh, now I can see myself. Okay, that's good. Well, welcome to everybody. And I certainly want to say that we are so honored to have Fariborz here. He's been a good friend of people with disabilities, and it's just great to have him here and be involved like this. We're all honored to have him here, and that's it's so wonderful. But welcome to the ADA celebration webinar. We typically, in past years, we've been putting this event on for many, many years. We typically would see you face to face, but because of the pandemic, we have gone to these webinar series, and they've been wonderful successes. We used to get in person over 100 people, but now, last year we got 250 per session, and this year we have over 400 registered. And I'm so excited. And each of these webinars, the 4-part webinars, have just been so excellent. Both years, this year you're going to be excited about what you're going to see, but last year they were so excellent and so well done. And of course this year, you know, we're so excited about Judy Human and having her with us to look at ADA celebration of the ADA and Rehabilitation Act and stuff like that. But we'll introduce our honored guest later with David Morrissey. Next week, we're going to look at behavioral health. I'm going to be helping lead that as a psychologist and gerontologist working in that area for so many years with Russell Lehman. But we also have great sessions in week 3, which will be 3 and 4 will be hosted by the Northwest ADA Center. We're looking at equity issues and emergency planning. We have the best and the brightest of presenters, and I think you're really, really going to enjoy that. Before we move forward, and I think I introduced myself, but I'm Jim Davis. I'm the chair of the Oregon Disability Commission and have been an advocate for seniors and people with disabilities for 48 years. So it's a pleasure to be here. I wanted to thank our sponsors. Of course, I want to thank the Oregon Disability Commission. I'm going to give just a really brief thing about that in a minute, but I also want to thank the Northwest ADA Center. They've been wonderful partners for us, and they help co-host this every year. And it's just a wonderful organization, and it's a great partnership. And we just so appreciate them and the fact that they continue to be our partners in this webinar. We do ask that you spread the word. We'd love to have as many people as possible and to get people involved in these sessions. You're going to see a little later on a governor's proclamation. The governor has proclaimed this ADA month and has recognized our celebration, and so I hope you enjoy seeing that. I did want to just very briefly talk about the Oregon Disability Commission. We have commissioners on the line or involved here, and there's so many of us, I don't know where to find them, but we have excellent commissioners, and they're very involved and active, and this has been an accomplished commission that looks at more than just the ADA celebration, which is our one of our jewels, but we've made recommendations around COVID and been very involved in disability issues around that. We work with Disability Rights Oregon quite actively. We sit on the state building codes and standards boards around ADA issues. We're very involved with disability transportation, and David Morrissey well knows that. We've been very involved in the legislative process, particularly around APD budget issues, but also we helped this year in the formation of the Stop Age and Disability Discrimination and Employment Coalition. So we've been working very, very actively in that arena. And certainly we've taken the lead on disability, mental health and addiction issues. And we're involved in lots of other stuff. And hearing, we've got some great advocates around the deaf and hard of hearing issues that we deal with. Accessibility issues are always a big thing for us. Housable, accessible housing, that type of thing. So we're doing lots of good stuff. And I want to just let you know there are slots open on the Oregon Disability Commission, and we would love to have people. We already have a waiting list of some who are interested, but in particular with our very strong interest in equity issues. And we would very much like a person of color who works with people with disabilities or who themselves is facing disability challenges. And so please keep that in mind. And I would be available, as would Joseph and others. Before I go to David Morrissey, I do want to just thank our staff. Joseph and Ryan have been wonderful, but Joseph in particular has helped coordinate this for the last couple of years, and he does excellent work. And I think he deserves a lot of kudos for his excellent contributions to this celebration. I want to thank DHS and their wonderful communications team for all the good stuff they've been doing. We have over 400 registrants because of their great work. And so I also want to thank our ADA Celebration Committee. We had a very strong committee, and they're very involved, and that's why this event is as good as it is. So with that said, I welcome you all. I turn it now to David Morrissey to introduce our very distinguished guest.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. I hope you're hearing me okay, and everyone out there is having a successful connection to this, as well as seeing our sign language interpreters. Do use the chat feature if you're having any tech challenges, and I know our team will do the best they can solve them for you. But I'm so excited. What a great turnout we have here today. And for the first work day back to the office, I guess now in July, we're kicking off a month of celebrating independence. And it's always so meaningful to me that the ADA anniversary kicks off that spirit of independence, because that's what the ADA is about, independence for every American. And Americans with disabilities had a long and ongoing, as Jim pointed out, fight or campaign to fully realize our civil rights as equal American citizens. And so I'm so proud today to have so much interest in attendance in this session. My name's David Morrissey, and I work for ODOT in the Office of Civil Rights, where I manage our ADA program, as well as our Civil Rights Act Title VI program and our Environmental Justice program. I've worked in the disability rights space for quite a few years, and that was how I got to know our guest today, Judy Heumann. Back before joining ODOT and earlier in my career, Judy and I worked together in Washington, D.C. on particularly an area of emphasis, which is expanding our understanding of disability rights and inclusion to all of our global neighbors, and thinking about our international society being one that can uplift the inclusion, access, and equality of people with disabilities, regardless of what country. But again, back to July in that spirit of independence, we're celebrating the ADA this month in its 31st anniversary, 31 years of the ADA. But Judy's story goes back before that, and we're going to touch on a few pieces of that today. For those of you who don't know, the pioneering disability rights advocate, Judy Heumann, I don't know where to begin other than to say, if you have Netflix, there is an amazing documentary that you must see called Crip Camp. And it really sows the seeds of why we do this advocacy for independence, and tells the story not only of Judy, but of other advocates who grew up together and fomented a movement for disability rights and access, not only that led to the ADA, but something we'll touch base on here as well, the 504, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, that also was a huge step forward that contributed ultimately toward the ADA. That film, Crip Camp, has already been nominated for an Oscar. It's a winner of a Peabody Award and an Independent Spirit Award. In parallel with Judy hitting the red carpet and helping promote this awesome documentary, she is also a distinguished author, and her memoirs, Being Human, her memoirs has had great sales and is available not only as an ebook, there's an awesome audio book available of it, and your traditional print on page is available too. And forthcoming, inspired by her memoirs, Being Human, is a book targeted sharing this information with young people, and that's called Rolling Warrior. And
it came out on the 15th.
It what?
Came out on June 15th.
June 15th, so it's out. Get Rolling Warrior. I haven't got it. It's on my list. And so finally, there is a podcast, a blog, and a Facebook page, all called The Human Perspective, that I hope you'll also follow. And I keep saying Judy's last name, but for clarity, that's Heumann is how her last name is spelled. So when you search for that podcast or her Facebook page, The Human Perspective is spelled that unique way. So Judy, I rewatched Crip Camp last night. I had seen it in a few months, and so in prep for today's session, I wanted some of the issues that were there to be front and center in my mind. As a kid with a birth condition, I grew up with a disability. As I know, you acquired polio shortly after birth or as a child. So you and I share that in common, our experience of being young people with disabilities who grew in our advocacy and independence through the life experience of often facing an inaccessible world. And the tenor of the video captures that so nicely. So now let me be quiet and ask you to react to that, those opening remarks, and again, this spirit of independence, particularly thinking of our young people. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, David, so much for doing this. And thank you, everyone. I'm so happy that you're doing these ADA celebrations and that you've been kind enough to invite me to be one of your first speakers. I asked David if we could do this together because, as he said, we met each other, oh my goodness, 12, 13 years ago now. And he was a great leader when he was the executive director of the United States International Council on Disability. And one of the main areas that he worked on when I was at the US Department of State in the Obama administration was something called the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. And for those of you who have seen Crip Camp and or read one of the books, I talk about how discrimination, lack of equality for disabled people is really an international issue. And that was one thing that I learned pretty early on when I was, I guess, in my early 20s and began to do some international traveling, that the experiences that disabled people had were impacted to a degree on the wealth of a country. But at the end of the day, when I had polio when I was 18 months old, and David had spina bifida when he was born, for me, it was 1949, and there were no laws on the books that made it illegal to discriminate against disabled children or adults in the public or private sector, meaning that it was not illegal to deny a child, regardless of disability, the right to an education. And that's what my parents learned. You know, I was 5, they took me to school, and this is in the early 1950s, and the principal said I couldn't go to the school because I was a fire hazard. But basically told my mom not to worry because the Board of Ed would send a teacher to my house, which they didn't do for kindergarten. They did for the first, second, third, and half of the 4th grade, but for a total of 2.5 hours a week. So I think, David, you know, one of the things that many of us were learning at that point in our lives as we were getting older was that our families had expectations for us in many ways that were equivalent to the expectations that they had of our siblings. But that society itself in New York City, and this was all over the country, did not necessarily have those same expectations. So my brothers didn't go to school for 2.5 hours a week, nor did my neighbors or my friends. And when I was, you know, young, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, I began to understand that there was something wrong with the picture. Not only was I not able to go to school like my brother's friends and family, but I didn't see myself on television except for what used to be called telethons, which some of you may never have heard of if you're like post ADA, because those telethons went off the air a while ago. And I think when you look at Crip Camp, what you're seeing is a lot of younger people, because we were teenagers, really being able to come together and start talking about our futures or our concerns about what our futures might look like. So I think Crip Camp itself is a really dynamic film because you really get to see so many young disabled people, teenagers, at this camp upstate New York in Hunter, New York, called Camp Jened, where while we were having fun like campers do, it also really was a period of time when we began to look at our futures in a way that we recognized society didn't have the same view of what we were going to be able to do. And we needed to start addressing that. You're muted, David. Still muted.
There we go. It only took a minute to find that button. Thanks, Judy. You know, in the film, it's so it's touching and empowering how your camp experience as young people included a variety of individuals with different disabilities, and showing how as a group of campers, you all came together and would solve the needs of campers, whether it was support for bathing or for cooking the day the cook was off, and everyone still needed to pitch in to make it happen. And how that spirit of everyone bringing the talent they have to the table fed the disability rights advocacy movement that then we see in the second half of the hour of the documentary, where we see the Section 504 sit-ins, protests for a better 504, and the other advocacy coalition movement building. And you referenced even our work 30 years later together in international disability empowerment. This idea of setting a big table or a big tent that every member of our community has a place in. We often say that people with disabilities are 1 billion strong globally, because it's the blind, the deaf, persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, people who use wheelchairs, and others all coming together. And that's the ADA. It doesn't single out one group or another. Rather, it's about Americans with disabilities. When you were starting those earliest steps in your advocacy around the Rehab Act, did you foresee that cross-disability coalition strategy, including in the video bringing in disabled veterans, was going to be a part of how you build your volume and your force?
You know, so cross disability to me was very natural. But, you know, the disability community is so large and by that I mean both in numbers and types of disabilities. So when I was growing up, I was in these special classes. Did you go to regular classes, David?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Pamela, one of the interpreters. Unfortunately, my spotlight has been removed. There.
Go ahead.
You're okay now?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So my experiences were these segregated classes, only disabled kids, and we all had physical disabilities, but different disabilities. So cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, spina bifida, polio. But when I started going to camp, first I went to a camp called Camp Oakhurst. And that camp was also people with various forms of physical disabilities. And some people had multiple disabilities. Then when I started going to Camp Jened, there were a couple of summers where there were deaf campers and blind campers, which was their primary disability, deafness or blindness, which also was pretty unusual in those kinds of camps, because usually it wasn't so cross disability. But that's when I started to learn sign language. That's when I started to, you know, there were 3 deaf teenagers, and we were in the same bunk or the bunk next door. And that was really a great experience for me to, again, see another group of disabled people where there were different issues, but at the end of the day, the issues were very similar. Discrimination, denial of equal opportunity, low expectations. And I kept learning. And when I went to college, met more people with different types of disabilities. And I think for me, one of the big changes was when I applied to be a teacher and then was denied my license, specifically in writing because of paralysis of both lower extremities. sequelae of poliomyelitis. Now, this obviously was before 504 and before ADA. And that really allows people to see today that had 504 been in place in 1970 when I was denied my license, there would have been a direct road to filing a complaint. And the Board of Ed would never have written a denial letter that was so blatantly discriminatory. And I think that's what was going on with many of us who were younger, is we were learning from other civil rights movements, the civil rights movement led by Dr. King and others, the women's rights movement, the aging movement, the anti-war movement. All these movements were really coming together with people from different walks of life. And I think we were really beginning, even at a young age, to recognize that discrimination against anyone was discrimination against us all. And we needed to understand the types of discrimination that disabled people were facing, the rationales that were being utilized. And we needed, as a community, to be able to speak up for other people, not just ourselves. And that's what I think was very important about 504 and ADA, one of the aspects, that we really, many of us recognize that we had to be able to speak up for and with people who had different types of disabilities and were being discriminated against in many different ways, and to support each other and to basically have a similar agenda to fighting for equality, which is really what I think Crip Camp is all about. You know, it's a primer in many ways, more than a primer, but allows people, particularly non-disabled people and even disabled individuals who don't know our history in this country and other countries around the world, to get a little more, not all, but a little more information about what has happened over the last, my goodness, 50, 60 years.
That the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504 of the Act states that no qualified individual with a disability in the United States shall be excluded from, denied the benefits of, or be subject to discrimination under any program or activity that receives federal financial assistance. So as a first major move for the disability rights movement to assure that Section 504 would actually be implemented as written, recognizing that while yes, it's limited to those entities that receive federal financial assistance, that's actually still a large facet of society, covering schools, hospitals, and some transportation features, the voting booth, city halls often. And so as a strategy for the movement to start with 504 to assure that access and work toward equity under federally funded programs, when you see in the Crip Camp documentary, the community's realization that after that success, there was still a lot of work to be done, which ultimately led to the movement for the ADA.
Yeah, and I think there was no, it's important to understand that Title V of the Rehab Act was not really known when the bill was moving forward. It was not, Title V did not have hearings. It was kind of a sleeper. And it was basically a part of the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was only on disability, because disability hadn't been included in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And it took us, the disability community, from 1964 until 1990 to have an equivalent in the public and private sector. So I think that in and of itself is a very powerful statement to show that disabled people did not receive the same protections in law that was promulgated in 1964. But we were very much learning from the civil rights community, as I said, very much learning about how people were fighting and losing their lives in many cases, fighting for equality. And I think really one of the very important parts about the film is that you get a little bit more knowledge, and in some cases a lot more knowledge, not only about the laws, but about the kinds of discrimination that people were experiencing. Deinstitutionalization being one of the major issues.
That's right. The concept that the ADA and Section 504 ultimately support independent living for every American with a disability to live how they choose, even if they need supports for independence. And who among us, we're an interconnected society. We all need supports for our independence. And so this, within the ADA, expanding the right to access beyond federally funded programs to under Title II, cities and states, to the workplace, even in the private sector, that every applicant with a disability deserves a fair, non-discriminatory shot as an applicant for a job, and if hired, a fair and non-discriminatory opportunity to work in the workplace. And finally, those accommodations in order to access parks, hotels, entertainment venues. Really a American life-changing piece of law that even during the campaign for its passage, you had skeptics facing you saying, well, we can't afford it. It'll take too much. And even over the course of the 30 years, there's been occasional, and sometimes more than occasional, regular echoing of those same concerns from different sectors. We can't do it. The impact's not there. But we know the impact is there because of the breadth of the ADA, particularly, that now so many folks, including folks who may not identify as having a disability, enjoy things like a curb ramp when they're crossing the street. It works for everybody. And so this evolution from disability access to universal design and universal access, I think, is one that has truly enriched American life, Judy. Before we turn to some questions from the group, comments on that about how you see how these laws have led to the society we have today?
I think these laws have been very valuable in many ways, as you were saying, David. One of them being that the disabled people who know about these laws, and that's another area that I think is very important, that many people don't know enough about laws like the ADA and 504, and failure to really understand these laws.
This is
Also
Pamela,
the-
one of the other interpreters. I'm so sorry to interrupt again. Looks like we need to spotlight the other interpreter.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm waiting for confirmation from
I'm working on it.
Joanna.
Just a
Thank you.
moment. There we go.
There we go.
Great. Go ahead, Judy. Thank you.
We're also at 12:38.
Great. If folks have questions for Judy, we'll turn to questions in just a moment. You could actually type some into the chat, which I'll be happy to read, or we may be able to open mics. But let's let Judy finish her recent comment.
And no, I was just saying that it's very important that disabled individuals understand what our rights are under these laws. Because we're not going to file complaints or go to court every time there's a problem, but it is really important to understand what our rights are so that we can speak with those who we believe are violators. In some cases, they will make changes. In other cases, they won't, in which case we may want to be looking at filing individual complaints. It's also, I think, understanding our rights and fighting for our rights, I think, gives us as individuals greater dignity. It really makes a statement to ourselves and others that we will not accept others' views of who we are, when in many cases their views of who we are and what we can do is really quite substandard to what we are able to contribute.
Thank you. One nice comment from the chat box. Chelsea says, I feel more empowered as a person with an invisible disability. It's nice to see representation of my situation and know that I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. I have support. One question here, Judy, from Mary asked, do we have a current support person in the White House in Washington, D.C. at this point? What's the readout from D.C.?
I mean, I think President Biden, before he was elected, really demonstrated his support for those of us with disabilities, in part because he came out as a stutterer. And that was really, for me, a very important action on his part. Many people don't think about people who stutter as having a disability, and yet it can be a very significant disability, which may really limit one's opportunities. So not only did he come out and speak about his disability, but having this young gentleman who had a stutter who spoke at the Democratic National Convention, I think was very important. But now it's very important to look at the legislation that he's moving forward with. And disability is front and center in many of the major pieces they're pushing forward. More money for the IDEA, work they're doing on stronger implementation, more money going into personal assistance, home and community-based services. So, and people being appointed in the White House who have disabilities, who are in personnel and domestic policy, and other disabled people that are being appointed to work in different government agencies. So I think that's all really very important. That over the next couple of years, I think we will really see the benefit of the legislation that he's pushing forward that will be making additional changes in many different aspects of our lives and society overall.
Thanks, Judy. Let's see, let's take a live comment. Wada Sofan is on the line. Wada, I don't know if you want to speak through the interpreter or via microphone, but go for it.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for this opportunity today to be here. And thanks for those people who sacrificed their life to make it today the ADA available for everybody. Judy, you are co-founded the Institute, the World Institute on Disability with Ed Roberts. And I was lucky to present last week on Ed Roberts and the ADA movement and the start. I'm so amazed to be here with you. You know, as an international, I'm a Palestinian who came from Palestine. When I came to the United States, I really had the privilege to enjoy the American Disability Act, and thank you. But you know, since the World Institute on Disability is not really reached out to many countries in the world, third world countries, people really struggle on the overseas. And I struggle myself there. When I came to this country, I really appreciate this opportunity. So what are you guys doing to improve the life of people with disability abroad? Thank you.
So I was one of the founders of the World Institute, but I haven't worked there since 1993. So I think it's also important to understand that the World Institute has really named itself World for some of the same reasons that I was discussing earlier. And that is the commonality of problems that people face around the world. And so they have they have focused on a number of issues, and one of them right now has to do with disaster preparedness and disaster relief. And I know Marcy Roth, who is their current executive director, definitely has been focusing on emergency preparedness from an international perspective. Her background prior to coming to the World Institute was working for FEMA, and she's given many presentations and involved people from other countries on these particular issues. So the World Institute is not a donor organization. It doesn't give money to countries like organizations like the World Bank or the Asian Development Fund or the African Development Fund or any of those. It raises money to do its work. And it has worked in a number of countries on a narrow number of issues.
Thanks, Judy. So one comment from Liam. He says, I'm a teenager with a physical disability, and it's very impactful to know that Judy started where I am currently. Additionally, George Adams has a live comment. George, if you're unmuted, go for it.
Yeah, this is George Adams from Southern Oregon. I wanted everybody to know that I'm working with somebody in Washington, D.C. to make sure that everything is coming into law by the House and Senate for everything to be ADA accessible across the country. Housing, airlines, rental cars, and motels.
George, did you have a question for Judy?
No, I just wanted everybody to know what I'm working on.
Thank you. Keep up your advocacy. Judy, comments, or shall I read another question?
Yeah, I would just say that it's, when we look at where we are and where we need to go, airline travel is certainly an area where we need to do a lot more work. Right now, it's a separate piece of legislation, and there are many weaknesses in that legislation. The Paralyzed Veterans of America are working on a coalition to try to be able to make some critical changes to the Air Carriers Access Act. And I think that's another very critical area. I think George was speaking to that.
Judy, a couple of folks have brought up the context recently of the COVID pandemic and social distancing and the experience of the last year and a half for people with disabilities being rather unique. As Patricia put it, the pandemic revealed a deep bias often held against persons with disabilities, sometimes in the medical field. What are your thoughts on this? How do we address responsible care, not being dismissed or considered disposable or not valuable enough to receive care in a busy time at a hospital? Would love your thoughts on that.
And then I'll do that. And then David, Joanna Wilson has been trying to ask the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can call on her after.
Okay, we'll get to it.
So, oh my God. Tell me the question again, I'm sorry.
Reflections on the COVID.
Yeah, I got it, thanks. Sorry.
Nice.
I think we all know that COVID has hit the country really hard, and that there's been a disproportionate number of disabled individuals who have died as a result of COVID. I want to say that one of the important changes, and I think 504 and ADA definitely are responsible for some of these. First of all, we have a much stronger disability rights community today than we did in 1970. Today, we have many organizations, both at the state and local level, government agencies with responsibility for implementation of 504 and the ADA and IDEA and many other laws. More staff, more funding, and disability rights groups who were able to jump in very quickly as COVID was moving forward, and hasty decisions were being made by state governments on restricting healthcare services for disabled individuals with the bias that our lives were not as valuable as others. Groups in every state, protection advocacies, disability rights education and defense fund, Centers for Independent Living, and other particular groups, National Association of the Deaf, the National Federation of the Blind, many others really jumped in. And I think it was their very quick intervention and Department of Health and Human Services also coming forward with policies that basically knocked out what many states were trying to do. So I want to say that that, in many ways, a very significant change that likely everyone viewing this today had some role over the last couple of years in really speaking up and speaking out against discrimination for yourself and for other people. And I think it's really resulted in saving people's lives, although nowhere near as many as we would have liked. We've spoken against nursing homes and segregated living environments for decades, saying that these are dangerous places for people to live. And when you look at about 130,000 people who have died in nursing homes across the country, segregated environments, it's a perfect example of why what we've been arguing has been correct. And we need to be really working hard on federal and state policies that will ensure that disabled individuals can get home and community-based services where people are not living in congregate living programs and are able to live where they wish with the people they wish to live with.
Judy, I want to try to take one last question from the guests themselves. This is Joanna Wilson. Joanna, if you want to speak through the interpreter or your microphone, go for it.
Hi, can you guys all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Joanna Wilson. I've been a long time fight for different hard of hearing people in the state of Oregon for many, many, many years. And what I'm facing now is I'm a legal guardian for my son. And I was legal guardian. I just stepped out because I wasn't getting anywhere with protecting him, making medical decisions for him. I was turned down by providing me a sign language interpreter to all care, home health care agency that handles care providers that come into my son's home. He can't remember anything, you know, he can't stay on tax. He can't remember doctor appointment and he's losing doctors. So he, on his own, he wrote a permission for the doctors to communicate with me. But still, he wants to go in by himself, and that doesn't work. We're also facing with just refusing interpreters for lawyers, refusing to, I mean, when my son had a court-appointing attorney, you know, and I asked for a sign language service so that I can understand what's going on, I was refused that. This was a criminal case, and a lady blamed my son for something, but she didn't show up. But that was a criminal case, and for me to be with him, to help him understand what's going on, I was refused that too. So legal guardians who are deaf, you know, we're smart people. And I'm just really frustrated with doctors, lawyers, hospitals even. And I can't make medical decisions for my son because of it. I just wanted to share that with you. And also we have what's called bridgeoregon.org. Bridges Oregon, if you go onto that website, you can click on it to what's going on with deaf people. Right now, they only have the money to do abuses, victims, Commonly, well, deaf and hard of hearing people, deaf, blind people are more than abused, you know, or verbally abused or beaten up, you know, by other people more than the hearing world, more than the hearing people. It's the highest rate. But we also need to donate money to get this to grow so that, you know, we can have that Chad can be involved in helping people like me, who's a legal guardian, you know, to fight this rights. I mean, I just went to see a lawyer just a few days ago, last week Friday. And I told him I need help, you know, getting, what's the cost for it? And he goes, I can't help you because I can't provide you with sign language interpreter during our conversation. Because he had a beard, and I had a hard time lip reading him. And to writing, you know, it's not always effective communication. I just want to share that with you. Thank you. Sorry if I don't want to take too long. To let other people talk too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, please. Can I just make a follow-up, please?
I'm
I
sorry.
want to jump the protocol. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, who is this?
Sorry?
Who's
Who's
speaking?
talking now?
Okay, thank you. This
And
is
what is your
Justice.
name?
My name is Justice, and I work with the Disability Rights Oregon. I am blind.
Justice, I really needed to make that our last question. Our hosts today have really asked us to keep today's session to 1 hour, and they need to announce the poll. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions. And
I think what you're saying is maybe
Go ahead.
you and Joanna should talk. So maybe the organizers of the conference could get the two of you together. Am I correct?
Something like that, and also
Okay.
to have your email, Judy, if you don't mind, so that I can send you an email.
I'm not going to put it over here, but the organizer could give it to you.
So thanks,
Okay.
Judy. Judy, let me ask you if you could steer us toward a close, what you'd like us to take away from today, and also any closing thoughts that you'd like to share so that.
Sorry, this is
Carrie.
Carrie. I'm going to go ahead and put the poll up while Judy does those closing comments.
Thanks, Carrie. Perfect. Go ahead, Judy.
I think it's simple but complex. And that is, Oregon is the state that has been very active for many years. And it's important for Oregon to continue to raise its voice, disabled individuals and parents, about the importance of implementation of the ADA and 504 and IDEA, and to make sure that the bills that are currently in Congress to provide more funding for home and community-based services and for special education are in fact funded, and for infrastructure. As examples, infrastructure is something that everyone in our communities either benefits from or is adversely impacted by when infrastructure is not updated, means less accessibility in many different ways. So please, as you go forward with this month, continue to dedicate yourself not only to participating in these workshops, but really to be adding your voices. Make sure your congressional people and your state representatives and your US senators understand what you believe in and what you expect from them.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for not only those words, but your lifetime of leadership in front of leading a movement. And how
Thank you, David. Ditto, ditto.
Well, and what a thrill. And I want to thank everyone. The reactions through the polling and your comments are just overwhelmingly positive for today's session. And as I guess co-moderator or discussant, I know how hard it is to cover every topic that we'd like to. So I thank everyone for your patience and your dealing with the technology as well. I see Fariborz Pakshred is back on the line as well. And thank you for hosting everyone with the Oregon Department of Human Services, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and all of your team for making today possible. I'll be quiet and turn it to Carrie, who may have any final housekeeping.
I did want to say,
Thank
this
Mr.
is
Cochran.
this is Jim Davis. I did want to just to thank our presenters. Judy, it's such an honor to have you here, and what an excellent presentation you always give. And David, thank you for your excellent information and presentation, and how well you helped us coordinate the session. You know, we just really appreciate you. So anyway, thanks so much, and thanks to all the people who signed on. I think we had about 280 today, and I just think it's you know, it's wonderful. And please come back next week and next Tuesday at noon, and we're going to be talking about behavioral health, and I think you'll enjoy that session.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Joe.
You bet.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.